Who was up last night watching the coronation? Yes, a few people. For some of you, it's probably your second coronation, correct? Yes. Some of you remember the first one, your first one, many years ago. Someone tweeted that this, for our kids' generation, this will probably be the first of quite a few that they get to see. It was a long reign of Queen Elizabeth, and yet we saw the ordination, really, and I was quite shocked, wasn't it? It seemed like an ordination. Like at a church level, we ordain pastors, and we'll have an ordination service, and we'll set them apart, and it's a church ceremony. And before the eyes of God, we will set this person apart for the duties God has called them to. And I was quite shocked that at this world-stopping event, where all eyes were on this one event, that it was quite a Christian ceremony, wasn't it? If you watched it, it was conducted by the Archbishop of Canterbury in the Westminster Abbey. It was a full-blown church service, hymns, songs, the whole lot. And there really was a sense that King Charles III was being set apart by God to do the work of God, to rule and to reign here on earth with honour and with justice, and to bring peace to the people. And I really appreciated that. It was quite astounding that the whole world is stopping to see this. But I couldn't help because I'm a skeptic at heart, I couldn't help just stop and think, like, how sincere is this thing? How sincere is this thing? Like, I presume that the Archbishop of Canterbury and the other priests who were gathered conducting the ceremony were very sincere in the words they were saying. I'm sure there were plenty of people there who were sincere about, proclaiming, God save the King. And yet, I had to sort of question. I wonder about Charles and Camilla and Will and Kate and the rest of the family and all those heads of state who'd gathered and flown in from countries all over the world to come and be part of this ceremony. I just wondered how sincere it was, because there would have been those who were singing and standing and saying the words that meant it. But there were others who were singing and standing at all the right times, saying the words, and yet it meant nothing. Which kind of brings me to Malachi, because that's what Malachi, the prophet's been on about, hasn't he? That's what he's been on about from the start, as he's been speaking to God's people. He's been saying, yeah, I know you're coming to offer sacrifices. I know you're turning up. I know you're sort of going through the motions of it, but your heart is not in it. You bring sacrifices to me and you say, well, God, why won't you accept our sacrifices? Because look at them, they're rubbish. You're bringing the worst of what you have to bring to me. You dishonour me by doing it. You priests, why are you asking the question, God, why aren't you blessing us? Well, isn't it obvious? Because you turn a blind eye to injustice. You show favouritism to the rich and those who have, and you ignore the plight of the poor. Why on earth would I listen to you? You ask for justice when you don't give justice and hand it out. And so there is a sense in Malachi that he's speaking a message of, rebuke, of condemnation, pointing the finger at the people and saying, hey, I have this to hold against you. And we're continuing a bit on that today, and I want to talk about this not so much about the good, but of this word, the evil. How comfortable are you with the word evil? If God asks you to stand up and point the finger at our nation at the moment and go, you are evil and wicked, would that go down well? Would you be confident saying that? Or not? Well, let's have a look at it. So we're going to go to Malachi chapter 2, just the last verse there. And it says this, you've wearied the Lord with your words. You have wearied him. How have we wearied him, you ask? Well, you've wearied him by saying that all who do evil are good in the Lord's sight, and he's pleased with them. You've wearied him by asking, where is the God of justice? To weary someone is just to exhaust them, to tire them out. God is so tired, like he's exhausted, he's so sick of his people coming and doing what? Claiming that those who do evil are good. What a terrible thing to do. What were they doing? Were they just ignoring those who were doing evil things? Were they turning a blind eye? Were they somehow justifying and making an argument as to why what they're doing is good? Were they participating in it? We don't know. All we know is that they are proclaiming that those who do evil are good. And what a horrible thing to do, isn't it? Look at that horrible thing to do. Oh yeah, but they're fine, they're good, they're doing a good work, No, they're not. It's horrible. It's a terrible thing. And God is sick of it. He's just tired of it. And the other thing that wearies him is they keep asking, where is the God of justice? So here you've got that clear picture, haven't you? There are people who are doing unjust things. If you don't like the word evil, you can replace it with unjust. There's people doing unjust, unkind, horrible, awful things to people. And you are saying, that's all right, that's fine. And yet then you think about your needs and the way you're being treated unjustly, unfairly, and saying, God, help us, help us. Where are you, God? And you wonder why I'm not there? You hypocrites. You hypocrites. He's pointing the finger at them. Now we might ask, well, what are these evil things that he's talking about? When he says, you say these evil people are doing good. What are these evil people doing? Well, if we go on to chapter 3 to verse 5, he gives us a list. He gives us a list of the type of things that he considers to be evil. At that time it says, I will put you on trial. I'm eager to witness against all sorcerers and adulterers and liars. Now stop there for a second. I mean, sorcerers. Was Harry Potter wandering around waving his wand? We're talking wizards and witches and warlocks. Like what is sorcery here? Because it's used in the Old and New Testament, this thought of sorcery. It's like, well, there you go. The Bible's wrong, obviously, because there's no such thing as magic. Well, the sorcery being spoken of here is more about spiritual divination, of spiritual practices, people trying to connect with the spiritual through unorthodox means that aren't ordained by God. That God says, no, this is how you communicate with me. You people over here taking drugs, trying to get a high and enter into hippie land, that's sorcery. That's just witchcraft. Who knows what you're trying to do over there. That's not okay. You people over here who are offering your children as sacrifices to me, no. That's just that's not kosher. That's horrible. Like there's these people trying to connect through other means than the ones God's provided. That's this idea of sorcery there. Do I need to explain adultery? Adulterers, people who are breaking their marriage vows and their covenant with their spouse. And liars. Does anyone need to explain lying to you? No, I don't think so. We get it. Are these people evil? Evil? Who's lied? You evil person. Well, that's strong language, isn't it? Let's go on though, because he says, I'll speak against those who cheat employees of their wages, who oppress widows and orphans, or who deprive the foreigners of living among you of justice. They're the types of things going on. When you think evil, what comes to mind? Are you thinking Nazi Germany? You're thinking world wars, you're thinking evil dictators, you're thinking the worst of humanity, you're thinking serial killers and just the most horrible people on earth. They're evil. And yet the list we have here seems to be like, liars, those who cheat employees out of wages, those who don't give widows and orphans a fair go, those who deprive foreigners living amongst you of justice. These are the type of things, they're ordinary things we see every day, things we see entrenched in our systems and in the world we live in. And he says all these things have one thing in common. There's one thing all these things have in common, all these evil practices. It says, for these people who are doing all these evil things, do not fear me, says the Lord of heaven's armies. It's the one thing they all have in common. Now, what does it mean to fear God? Does it mean I have to walk around petrified, that God's going to strike me with lightning at any moment? Like, is it a frightened, scared kind of fear? Well, no. To fear God, and the Bible uses this many places, this word, to fear God is to have a healthy respect, an honour, a reverent awe of who God is. It's to put God in his proper position. And so we would see that God is big and we are hence small. That's what it means to fear God, to know that God is the big, mighty God, the all-powerful God, the all-creating God. This is God and who he is. And we recognise that. And I have this healthy fear of God in that, yes, he is deserving of some attention and respect and honour, and I should listen to him because he is above all things. This is the God that we're talking of. And me, well, who am I? Well, I'm just little James. Like, who am I compared to God? You know, nothing really. This is what it means to have a fear of God. And in the scriptures, we read about this fear of God in numerous places. Proverbs 8 verse 13 will say, all who fear the Lord will hate evil. This correlation, that the fear of God, putting God in his proper place, should lead to a point where we hate evil. Why? Because God hates evil. Because God is against all that is evil. And if we see God and respect God and honour him, then we too should hate what is evil as well. It says, all who fear the Lord will hate evil. Therefore I hate pride and arrogance, corruption and perverse speech. And Romans has a passage that is very similar to this Malachi one. Romans in chapter 1 verses 18 to 20 says this. It says, but God shows his anger from heaven against all sinful, wicked people. You could trade evil there as well. All sinful, wicked people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. They know the truth about God because he's made it obvious to them. For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing God. Paul joins two thoughts here together. Just goes, yep, these two are not mutually exclusive. You can't have one without the other. First of all, people are wicked. It's just an assumption. People are wicked. People are evil. Have you ever thought, where is evil? Is evil something that's external to people? It just exists out there somewhere, roaming around, waiting to get people? Like, where does evil come from? It comes from within people, doesn't it? I mean, people do wicked things. People do evil things to one another. People lie to one another, oppress others, refuse justice to others, treat others unfairly. I mean, it's a personal thing that people are wicked. Are you comfortable with that thought? Because I've got to say, in our current climate, our culture, in the Western world, this is not okay to say. It's not okay to say. Broken, yes. Victim, yes. Traumatised, yes. All these things. But to say, no, they're wicked. They're evil. No, we don't say that, do we? So one, people are wicked. But then he links this very quickly to people have no excuse of their wickedness because they should know God. Somehow knowing God, having that fear of God, should prevent us from being evil. Should prevent us from wicked things. Paul puts these two things together. Now, I want to talk about... where will I go next? Let's talk about the Garden of Eden. Let's talk about Genesis in the very beginning. You've got God who creates all things, and it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's good, it's perfect. And he puts man and woman in the garden. And he says, right, here you go, I've got wonderful things for you to do. Go and name the animals. You can start by doing that. What a great task. You know, go and name them all. Tend the gardens and work and just be fruitful and multiply. Go do it. And it's wonderful, it's lovely. But he puts one condition in place, doesn't he? It's just one thing. You can go do whatever else you want. There's just one thing you can't do. See that tree over there? Just don't go eat that. I'm not going to justify it to you. It's called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but, just don't eat it, okay? Now, there's something implicit in that, isn't there? In this story, there's something implicit in what God is saying. God is essentially saying, look, I've created this wonderful world for you. All you need to do is trust me, okay? You just need to trust me. Just don't eat that tree, okay? Just listen to me. Hear what I say. I'll tell you what you can and can't do. Just don't eat that tree. It's all right. Trust me. It's implicit in the story, isn't it? What he's saying. But what happens? Do they trust God? I think it's really apt. I mean, this is so insightful, isn't it? A document written thousands of years ago names this tree the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's like, no, I'm not going to trust you, God. I actually want to be able to tell the difference between good and evil. I actually want to say what is right and what is wrong. I'll determine that, thank you very much, God. I don't need to trust you about what I can and can't do or what I should and shouldn't do. I'll take that on board and I will eat the fruit. And I will now be like you. Because I don't need you up there. I'll put myself there, thank you very much. And I now will determine what is good and what is evil. And what happens? They do. And do they do a good job of it? What do their children do to each other? Their son kills their other son, like within a generation, like when they're left to determine what's good and right. And do you think he justified it? Do you think he was like, yeah, in the moment I thought I was doing the right thing, and when remorse comes and he says, what did you do? God comes on and says, why did you kill your brother? Oh, sorry. I was angry. I didn't know he'd die. Never seen death before. The Bible paints this picture when we turn our eyes off God, when we do not fear him, when we believe this lie that we can decide what is right and wrong, that is the root of evil. Any evil act is an expression of that, flows from that. That we decide what's right and wrong, and we get it wrong all the time. Talk about three perspectives on evil. Three common worldly perspectives on evil. You've got the Eastern perspective, so kind of a Buddhist, Hindu kind of perspective on the problem of evil. And Eastern perspective is really good at identifying that there is a problem with evil. It's really good at saying the problem with the world is there's too much suffering and there's too much evil in the world. It's really good at identifying it. And it identifies it in you, that you are the cause of your suffering and your evil, that it comes from within us. But the solution I just find so dissatisfying. It says that the sense of self is an illusion, that you're part of a bigger thing, and the world wants to trap you in thinking that the world's all around you. So you need to just let go of that and let go of any sense of self and of this world. Detach yourself from everything, and you'll find that once you do that, your experience of suffering and pain and evil will reduce, that you won't be an influence. But I find it dissatisfying because it's just give up on the world. The world's an illusion. Your sense of self is an illusion, which means others' sense of self is an illusion. It doesn't lead to connection, doesn't lead to love and family. And deep within me, everything in me wants to be loved and to love and to be connected and to I just find it deeply unsatisfying that the solution to evil is just don't care about anything. And you'll never be disappointed. It'll be all right. Now, it's an oversimplification a little bit, but essentially that's the solution. Sense of self is an illusion. You've then got a secularist perspective, which is kind of the culture we live in. So in the 17th, 18th century, you had the beginning of the Enlightenment, where humanity started to go, wow, we can think for ourselves. We don't need to listen to the authorities, which at the time were the church and the royalty, whoever was in power. They've told us for years that this is the way the world is and the way the world works. But hey, we can question this. And what makes me so different to you? Just because you were born to a royal family, and people start thinking, we start learning, and science and technology grows, and we start studying the world, and our insights become greater and greater, and we start developing this perspective that goes, hey, we don't need the old stories. We don't need what the church has offered and this sense of the supernatural and the transcendent. No. We need to trust what we can see and touch and feel only. And secularism is really, really good at going, hey, the world's not right. We don't like the way the world is. And it's really good at trying to solve the problems or the results of evil, the fruit of evil. So we can go and fight for refugee rights and try and feed the poor and the hungry and solve world hunger and create medicines and cure diseases. We can try and do all of that. But it's terrible at identifying the cause of it. What's the cause of evil according to secularism? What causes it? Well, it's certainly not us, is it? And if it is, then what's the solution? Well, all we need is to be educated, don't we? If we just educate people, the world would be a better place. If we just educate them, train them to act better. Well, according to who? According to what? The problem with secularism, there is no moral absolutes. There's no one to say this is absolutely wrong and this is absolutely right. And who are you to say? I don't know. There's a poet you may have heard of, W.H. Auden. Anyone know? Yeah. So in the movie Four Weddings and a Funeral, in the funeral scene where he stands and says, stop all the clocks. Very sad scene. That's his poem. Famous poet. Actually escaped from German Nazis to move to America because he could see the writing on the wall and go, this isn't going well, and so he moved to America. Staunch atheist, secularist. Spent his entire career arguing that there are no such thing as absolutes, no such thing as universal claims of right and wrong, that it's all relative, that, who's to say what's right and wrong, and we're just all floating particles in the universe anyway. There's no meaning to life, who's to say what's right and wrong. Of course, everyone has an opinion, but we work that out together. But there's nothing universal saying that is wrong. But his world was turned upside down when he was watching the news one day. And he was watching a news broadcast of German soldiers entering into Poland. And as he was watching them, they were going along and they were killing men, women and children as they went along. And if that wasn't disturbing enough for him, he watched as German citizens were standing along the streets as these soldiers were doing it, chanting, kill them, kill them, kill them. And it was at that moment he stopped and looked at that, and everything in his being, everything in his fibre just looked at that and said, that is wrong. He wanted to scream, that is universally wrong. That there is no way that could ever be right. There is no setting that could ever justify that behaviour. And his world was rocked because he had to come to grips with the fact that perhaps there is some things that are just evil. Perhaps there are universal moral absolutes that exist. And I'm sure you've had times where you cry out and go, that is wrong, that is evil, and you want to cry it out and you want the whole world to rally around you and go, yes, absolutely, you're right, because it is. Deep down we know that to be true, don't we? We know there are things that are abhorrent, that can never be justified. Why? Because God has created a world where there is good and evil. And so the secularist perspective, we can deal with the consequences of evil and try and mitigate them. Can we ever identify the real heart problem and the real issue of what is evil and address that? You can't if you ignore God. And there's a third perspective, the Christian perspective, where we see that the problem of evil is very real, that evil does exist, that each and every one of us are capable of evil. And at the heart of it, why is that the case? Because we have broken God's holy and righteous rules for living. We've turned our back on him. We've taken our eyes off of him. We've taken him off the pedestal. We've eaten of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And we've said, no, thank you, God. I'll be the one to say what is good and what is right in my life. You can't tell me. And every time we do that, it leads to disaster. I think you can tell that again and again and again. What is the solution? What's the solution to that? Is God just going to come and wipe us all out and go, well, you're evil, you've done the wrong thing, I'm going to judge you, condemn you, and punish you? Well, it's not what we see here in Malachi. You think Old Testament, that's sort of the Old Testament God, isn't it? That's not what we see. There's three things I want to point out here, I think, that show the heart of God and what he does. Because he does come and says, hey, look, guys, you are doing what is wrong. You are being evil. He's pointing the finger. But then in verse 1 of chapter 3 says this, look, I am sending my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me. Then the Lord you are seeking will suddenly come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant whom you look for so eagerly is surely coming, says the Lord of heaven's army. So first thing here, that God is setting a limit. He's saying, I see the evil that's taking place, but I'm coming. I'm going to come and put a stop to it. There is only so much I can stand. You've wearied me long enough. I will come and I will put an end to it. Okay, what's that end going to look like? Verse 2. But who will be able to endure it when he comes? Who will be able to stand and face him when he appears? For he will be like a blazing fire that refines metal, or like a strong soap that bleaches clothes. Good question, isn't it? Who can stand before God and say, oh, you know, I've never done the wrong thing? We all have. And he's coming like a blazing fire. Verse 3, though, says, he will sit like a refiner of silver, burning away the dross. He will purify the Levites, refining them like gold and silver, so that they may once again offer acceptable sacrifices to the Lord. Then once more the Lord will accept the offerings brought to him by the people of Judah and Jerusalem, as he did in the past. He's not coming to destroy. He's not coming to punish. He's coming to purify. He's coming to restore. He's coming to bring us back into good relationship with himself. That's why he's coming. To purify and restore. Do you see that? Like the one who purifies metal that's become corrupted. He's making it so that the priests whose sacrifices weren't acceptable will once again be acceptable, so that we can be in good relationship with one another once again. That is why he's coming. And ultimately, third thing I notice from this is that God cares about justice. Why is he coming? Why is he doing this? Why would he go to all this trouble? Because he cares about justice. Do you want a God that cares about right and wrong, good and evil? If I frame that differently, would it matter if God didn't care or didn't point out evil in the world? Would it care? Well, what kind of God would that be? He would see evil and injustice, he would see wrongdoing and wickedness and just go, yeah, okay, whatever. That's horrible. What kind of God is that? I want a God who sees what is taking place, who calls it out and says that is wrong. Don't want a God who comes and then says, I'm going to kill you because of it and execute you and punish you. Well, that's not what it's promised. I'm coming to purify and restore. I care about justice. I want you to keep doing what is right, what is good. And verse 4. Sorry, not 4. Verse 1 of chapter 3. Look, I'm sending my messenger and he will prepare the way before me. Then the Lord you are seeking will suddenly come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant whom you look for so eagerly is surely coming, says the Lord of heaven's armies. Who is this one that's coming? Who is the one that's coming? Well, we're fortunate enough to have seen him come and go, and that person is Jesus Christ. He is the one who will come to purify and restore his people to himself, to deal with the problem of evil, to right the wrongs, to allow us to be in good standing, that we might once again fear God and flee from evil and do good. More to say about that in the coming weeks, but we've got a time of communion now which Joe's going to lead us through, which will help centre us on the person of Jesus Christ.